Boris Johnson must start thinking much more about how to save the Union. With the coronavirus political crisis abating, the fight for Scottish independence has the potential to become the defining issue of our time. A proactive approach by the government is not only sensible, it's necessary. A cabinet minister has today leaked two suggestions to the Times newspaper reporter Tom Newton-Dunn for a front-page story about how the Union can be salvaged. So this is the first idea. Scots should be able to vote in a second independence referendum regardless of where they live in the UK. The second idea, former Scottish Tory leader Ruth Davidson should be appointed to a new role of Constitutional Secretary that would install her as the head of the pro-union campaign. Both make perfect sense to me. Scots who happen to be living somewhere else in the UK must not be disenfranchised the next time there is a vote. The future of the Union will arguably impact them more than the Scots who remain in their home nation. There's a lot of them too. An estimated 800,000 Scots are living in England, with a further 50,000 in Wales. There is a precedent for such a move too, given that Brits abroad were able to vote in the 2016 Brexit referendum. Now, as the anonymous cabinet minister told The Times, we know Sturgeon will start trying to force another referendum as soon as she thinks it's politically tenable again. So there are things we can and should do now to be ready for her. One thing is to open up eligibility of the vote to all Scots in the UK, not just those living in Scotland. The other is to bring Ruth back into the front line. She is the best pro-union voice we have. One thing I can guarantee is that Nicola Sturgeon is prepared to throw political mud to further the independence cause. And we saw that again today as she pushed back hard against Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham, who was rightly furious that Sturgeon slapped a travel ban on his citizens for no apparent reason. So this was Sturgeon today talking to the BBC, suggesting Burnham's stance was part of a future Labour leadership bid.
I've always got on well with Andy Burnham. If he wants a grown-up conversation, he only has to pick up the phone. But if, as I suspect might be the case, this is more about generating a spat with me as part of some positioning in a Labour leadership contest of the future, then I'm not interested. Back in May, we imposed travel restrictions on Bolton, for example, for exactly the same reasons we're now doing it on Manchester. Andy Burnham is Mayor of Bolton as well, and he didn't raise any of these issues then. We are following a standard process here. But Burnham was having none of it, using data in an interview with Sky News to point out case rates in parts of Scotland are actually just as high.
A conversation would be nice if the Scottish Government had picked up the phone, because they've changed the policy, and that has impacted on people here. So I think Nicola Sturgeon saying I should pick up the phone. Well, I'm more than happy to, but shouldn't they have picked up the phone before they did this? I want to hear from her how this can be fair. So today, for instance, Bolton has a significantly lower case rate than Dundee. Bolton is under this travel ban, Dundee is not. So I think we need an explanation.
Yeah, I think he's right. And look, I'm going to be completely honest. Sturgeon has used the coronavirus crisis to advance her independence goals, which is why it's right for other leaders like Andy Burnham just did to push back hard when what she's saying is totally nonsensical. I struggle to see how Sturgeon kept a straight face banning travel between Scotland and parts of England on the exact same day that tens of thousands of brilliant Scottish football fans flooded into London. We are one country. We should be able to travel sensibly between our great nations again this summer without any limitations. If you're feeling a bit down today, I do understand. I feel your pain. This was meant to be Freedom Day. We were meant to be celebrating. We were meant to be waving goodbye to 15 months of hellish restrictions. So it was a little worrying to hear the Prime Minister refuse to rule out further lockdowns this winter. Susan Hopkins of Public Health England, of course, raised that disturbing prospect yesterday during a BBC interview. And when asked about it today, here's how Boris responded. He said, "You can never exclude that there will be some new disease, some new horror that we simply haven't budgeted for or accounted for. But looking at where we are, looking at the efficacy of the vaccines against all the variants that we can currently see, so Alpha, Delta, the lot of them, Kappa, I think it's looking good for July 19 to be that terminus point." So, I mean, he was sort of on the fence. It's crucial. It's crucial. Our conversation starts turning to how we can start to live with COVID-19, which isn't going away, remember, rather than considering further debilitating lockdowns this winter. Now, given the government says it's going to follow data and not dates when it comes to COVID restrictions, there's really no longer any excuse for continuing the farce of the amber list travel regulations. Official figures from the Department of Health and Social Care show that none of the 23,000 people who were tested after arriving in the UK from amber countries were carrying COVID variants. That's right, none. A big fat zero. And just 89 out of the 23,465 contracted COVID at all. But genome sequencing of the results, I mean, we're very clever here, showed no trace of those much-feared variants. So as Henry Smith, chair of the All-Party Future Group of Aviation, put it, these figures clearly show that our current chaotic and overly cautious approach to international travel is not based on data at all. Our approach to international travel simply defies belief. As Europe reopens, we have gone from a restart based on data and science to the near total closure of our airports without proper explanation or justification. Hear, hear.